Yo, what is up guys, I'm here hitting up with a new CZN videos. You guys delivered, so here we are with the updated season 1 Haru guide. What did change with Haru versus what we had before? Actually, the season 1 itself doesn't really change too much for Haru itself. It's not like there's a secret sauce or something when it comes to like a specific card or something that changes how you play her. No, it's just the way I discovered on how you can play her actually differently, on how you can make her usable. Now for that, we actually have to look at her Manifest Ego first to understand how her entire kit changes, which I want to discuss in the first part here. I have her E6. I played her very intensively, so I know her strengths and weaknesses on her entire playstyle. Now overall, when it comes to her Manifest Ego, is that she just gets damage increase bonuses, but there are like a couple of things we need to talk about. So the E2 changes generally on how she works, because once you have her E2, now you can use the anchor shot even if you do not meet the AP requirement to cast it. So as we know, the anchor shot costs 2 mana to cast it, but now when you have her E2, even if you don't have the 2 mana, if you have 1 mana or 0 mana, you can now cast that skill. But there is also a drawback to it. So the anchor shot card used for this effect will consume all remaining blah 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 and decrease the damage amount by 40%. So that 40% is total damage, 40% total damage. So if you, for example, in that situation, now let's say 1 mana less, 1000% damage. Now with 40% reduction, it's only 600%. If you have 0 mana, it's now 80%. That puts it at 200% damage. And if you use Lift and can make it a free cost card, now you put it at 120, minus 120, and that effectively makes that card 0. Okay, so this is how you want to see. So whatever the damage is, minus 40% of that. That is basically how it works for Haru. And now when you have her at E6, that minus 40% changes to minus 20%. So you'll have less damage reduction when it comes to that. Now, before we jump into that, I want to mention something in particular in case someone from CZN is watching this. I think Haru needs a buff. In my opinion, the way I see it, I think her dupes are a little bit too restrictive and she gets penalized way too much by these debuffs. I think it's way too strong of a debuff for her overall, especially if we look at other units and stuff like that. Now with the build I'm showing you, she's doing a really great job overall. But the thing is, she does need a buff to her kit. So my recommendation in terms of a buff to Haru would be her E2. Change the damage amount decrease from 40% to 20%, and her E6 just cut out the 20%, just 0 damage reduction. Okay, I think this is what Haru needs the most and would make her even a lot better than she is, right? And puts her on the same level on, for example, a Mei Lin or something like that. But I think the penalty is just too big and they need to change that. Now keep in mind, some of you might wonder, she has that little lightning icons on top of her that comes from her E4, because every time she casts an anchor shot, she gets a power supply stack that can stack up to 3 times, so she gets plus 60% on her cards. What I realized is good and what is not so good. Now when we look at her cards, she has her basic cards. She has the anchor shot, which is the key card. Like anchor shot and anchor pointer are her 2 key cards in her deck. Okay, Power Charge is nice to have. Charge Energy is actually an important card and a really good card. When it comes to Lift Anchor is actually a very bad card. Lift Anchor is a card you can actually rip off her deck. It doesn't do anything. It doesn't help you. The only time Lift Anchor is usable and good for Haru is if you have the required amount of AP. Only then. Never use Lift Anchor when you do not meet the AP requirement. Okay, keep that in mind. It's very important because of the penalty from her ego, whatever you do with the Lift Anchor doesn't even help you. It's just a situational point where if you have only when you have the required AP, then it's worth using. Now also, wait to the build we're coming, no, but let's talk about the safe data I have for her, for the build I have for her. The annoying part is I got her basic cards back, which is really damn annoying to be honest. But the problem is I got every card of her Divine Epiphany or Epiphany Divine Nihilum Epiphany. That's why it got so expensive, even though I actually didn't want to have every single card of that Epiphany, like for example the Power Judge I didn't want to have. And I also have the Ecstasy card. Now let's talk about the build I have for her right now. in my opinion. Ideally, you don't have these cards. They just got added back, which is quite annoying to me, but it is what it is right now. But these cards you don't want to have on the deck. The Forbidden Ecstasy card, in my opinion, is a nice to have because it just synergizes well with her and the way you play her. But it's not a necessity, to be honest. I might actually try to farm another version of this deck without the Forbidden Ecstasy or without any Forbidden cards, to say so. Just because not having a Forbidden card saves me 20 points I can use elsewhere. In itself, if you can get that without the basic cards, then why not just have it? Then we have the Charge Energy one with a Divine version. I think this is now the best one I have found so far for the Charge one, because if we look at the Epiphany versions, I don't even know if it has. Yeah, it has this one. So here the Retain one, Charge Energy. This is one I like the most now. Increase damage amount of attack cards by 30% for 1 turn. Draw one of this unit's card. And then also I have the in my save data now, the Divine version to make it 0. You have that card, you activate it, and you draw one of Haru's card from her deck. And Haru only has good cards in her deck usually, right? So if you play Anchor Pointer, Anchor Shot, get a lot of value out of the Charge Energy card. Power Charge, let's not talk about it, does not matter. But now, this is the point. I needed to make all this talk because this is where we get into the Anchor Shot. I mean, you can look at the screen, you already have seen it. Where comes now the magic where you can use her at E0 and she gets slightly better at E2. Trick to that is making Anchor Shot actually a 1-cost card. It starts off as a 2-cost card and you need the Divine version of it to make it a 1-cost card. And here you have a couple of options when it comes to the Epiphany. Tested that one out because it just happened to be so. I was trying to get a vulnerable build for 2-cost vulnerable for her because I think this A at E6 is a really good build as well. Damn to be so that I got to create this card and draw pile 2 times. And I actually like it. I actually like it. Usually I prefer the one I prefer the absolute most is usually the one upon crit hit return to hand once. This is because of E2+. But you know what? Anchor Shot, create this in draw pile is also cool too, because you activate and you now have 2 Anchor Shots. Some people would say, yeah, but it's bad because of the ramp up. You want to have the 5 stacks, right? Actually, it's not that bad because having more Anchor Shots seems to be the play. Yeah, you actually want to have more Anchor Shots in your deck. I don't personally like the combo add +1 hit. It's okay, but I don't like it because I like getting that extra damage for that card, and you just ramp it up over time, right? So creating extra Anchor Shots is actually pretty damn good. So you do want to have this one. There are other options, but primarily you want to have this as a 1-cost card, okay? If you can get more Anchor Shots in deck, even better. So 1-cost card is where it changes a lot for this deck because you can play her with different partners as well. And then the key to making her spammable is having a Anchor Pointer. Either you want to have the Retrieve version or you want to have the buffing the crit chance version. One or other is good enough because basically Retrieve at the beginning is having 2 Anchor Pointers instead of 1 Anchor Pointer. That's basically how it is. You want to have a Divine version of the Anchor Pointer which has +1 AP. And this is crucial because as we discussed it, only as long as you have mana you can use Anchor Shot if you don't have her E2. If you don't have mana but you have her E2, you can now use Anchor Shot without anything. But the key difference here is how you start off using your Anchor Shots and then you use Anchor Pointer to get them back. You don't have mana, but now that you get the Anchor Shots back or pull them out from somewhere, you're now getting 1 AP. And since Anchor Shot only costs 1 AP, you now have enough AP to cast that skill. Without any drawbacks too. So this is where it comes with being able to play her below E2. Now when you have her E2, now the cool part is you can start off with your Anchor Shots in a situation where you have like maybe you did other stuff and you're lacking AP right now. But you have like a couple of Anchor Shots in hand and you have Anchor Pointers in hand. Now this way you can just throw out all your Anchor Shots even if you don't have any AP because you have an E2, and then you can use the Anchor Pointer to get them back and then cast it again, right? Now, if you don't have it, you can only use the Anchor Shot as long as you have AP. If you run out of AP, now you have to use your Anchor Pointer to get it back to get the AP, and then you can do it, right? So that's the thing. But also when it comes to her now with the Forbidden, with the Season 1 update, this is what I want to talk about in terms of the right cards, a Chimera card or weapon or whatever. Because this one, when drawing by an ability, increase damage amount of attack cards of this unit by 35% for 1 turn. Multiplicative 35%. The replica core is additive plus 50%, doesn't really do much because the anchor shot has already a high multiplier like 380 and it ramps up, right? So you want to have multiplicative there as well, helps out quite a bit. Then really good one is this one, Wings of Freedom. When hit, increase damage amount 10%, can stack up to 3 times. A lot, another 30%. To be honest, I don't know about this one. Is it multiplicative or additive? Because it's neither plus nor by. Could be one or the other. But the Wings of Freedom, really, really good for another damage increase. And then we have the Emblem of the Exceptional Entity, plus 30% damage amount. Just free plus 30%. A really, really solid option overall. And yeah, this is exactly what you want to do. Now that we changed her from a 2-cost anchor shot build to a 1-cost, now we can do different things with her. Now the way I want to play her is fairly simple, just crit damage and attack. There are 2 builds you can do. You can either go the 2-2 set, broken, or you can go with a double crit damage build. Why don't I have it? Because my Conqueror's pieces suck, that's actually it, and I just have a way better broken build with that. Now when it comes to her memory equipment, you can either go with justice damage for her or you can go with attack. Now from my testing is that the justice damage with her has a higher damage ceiling. Once you get more multipliers going on, you use the anchor shot more, ramping up more damage and stuff like that. Now this is where she deals more damage. The damage is like 200 more something, like it's not crazy amount of more damage. While going with attack, you're dealing more damage early on and being more consistent later down the line. As long as you crit, there's another requirement, then the justice scales a little bit better than the attack. But for consistency purposes, crit, attack, attack, those are her stats, with the potentials being like that. She needs just 1 more here. This one is not leveled up because I don't really care about it. And we can actually get here another 8% crit damage for her, which would then put her at 204% crit damage for this build. Now, what also is interesting about, because we always talk about Mika and stuff like that, and we want to have alternatives to Mika, you already saw the video because that's why I'm doing this one, is now Rei. Now Rei has obviously some cards, right? Especially the resonating one that gives another plus 40% to 1-cost cards. Now that we changed Haru to a 1-cost anchor shot spam, now we can combo her with Rei. And that's the cool part, because now we have a damage buffing abilities to that. And for that, we go back into the event here. And I just want to give you in-depth explanation. If you just straight up jump to the showcase, whatever, it's fine. But I want to give you a in-depth explanation on how you actually want to play and how it works and how you actually benefit from this build when you play your Haru. So I have an E6 Haru, so it plays out a little bit differently, or my damage is scaling slightly higher than from yours, but it is what it is. Now here we can do different things here. So I'm gonna use my upgrade cards because I do want to get my upgrade cards off the deck, because I do want to have card draw. So I like that combination of Vero and Rei here, because my Rei has a lot of card draw and my Vero has a lot of card draw, so I'm trying to draw out my anchor shots. So I have 2 mana. So actually, you know what, for showcase purposes, I just act like my Haru is E0. In your situation here, if you have a E0, now that you have 2 mana and you have 2 anchor shots, you do want to use these anchor shots, because by using these anchor shots, you get 2 more anchor shots because it generates drop, okay? So I'm gonna do it like this. Hit him twice, didn't do much. And then I end my turn now here. So this is how I'm just trying to show how she would look like if you don't have the required amount of copies, right? So we go into the next one, repose, drawing out more cards. Let me use charge energy for a bigger damage turn, get another anchor shot out. Let me use snack time. I also really like snack time nowadays because it exhausts cards, so I can get rid of like unnecessary cards from the deck here. And now here's a very strong turn for you. You have an E0 Haru, this is already a strong turn. Why is this a strong turn? So we use the Predator Blade to generate moral damage buff, basically. As a damage buff, we have 2 mana now, we have the anchor shot, we have the anchor pointer. Now let's do the Forbidden Ecstasy first, because we do want to get rid of these damage mitigation stacks. So this is where I actually like the Ecstasy card, now specifically for this boss, is not to deal a lot of damage, but to get rid of stacks. Now what we want to do is we want to use our anchor shots. Okay, so there we go, 1, 2, and we're now at 0 mana, but we planned that accordingly. Now we use anchor pointer, boom. Now we get our anchor shot back, but we also get anchor pointer back because it has its chief. Now we can use it one more time, boom, hit him. Now we can use it again. We get 1 AP back and we have 1 cost, and then we can use it one more time. See? And this is the damage we did to a dark enemy without much effort. That was not much effort, by the way. It's just the way we play. We just draw cards, right? This is nothing like it needs bajillion amount of setup. We're just drawing cards, and then whenever we feel like it, this is when we set up. The only thing we have to plan is our mana pool for this specifically. So here we go. I'm using snack time. Usually you can use it on to get rid of this one, but like I just trying to get rid of my basic cards from my deck here. Now let me use this card because this guy has his stacks again. Reduce all his stacks. Draw even more cards. See, okay, what do I have here? And now here's, for example, a cool part, right? So I actually don't want to have these 2 cards. Now Nyx. Nyx is really damn good nowadays because of stuff like this where you can just search for cards and improve your cards. I personally don't like Dark Condensation at all. I think it's like a weak card. Maybe on a different character it's better, but for something like this I don't feel like it's that good. I usually use it to buffer for the Ecstasy card, but outside of that not really that much. Let me use Repose to draw more. Now some I know there will be the one guy saying, oh yeah, all I know is no, Veronica is really damn strong. Like what are we talking here? We want to have card draw. We can also use cast for that, but it's all about drawing cards and getting the most out of your characters, right? Now this is what we want to do. Now we did that. Now we got the Mora buff. We have 6 Mora stacks now, 120% extra damage. The power supply does provide plus 60%, obviously because that is the E4 effect, but we have the Resonating Darkness now, which gives plus 40% again, right? This is how we get extra damage. Now looking at these cards, right? See this? They're only 2 stacks, but they're already at 600% because of all the good stuff we have, plus 120 from the anchor shot. So there's a lot of extra buffs going on. Now we have 2 mana, 2 anchor shots. So let's do what we would do if we don't have her at E2 or above. We use our anchor shots. Now we use our second anchor pointer because it retrieve, and that's why I like the retrieve one even better with the divine version, because it lets you spam even more, right? If you have E2, obviously you have a little bit more flexibility, do other things, and then use your anchor shots. And this is where we end our turn. And now the interesting part about making anchor shot actually a 1-cost card is because there's something what I mentioned. At E2, you have a minus 40% damage reduction. At E6, you have a minus 20% damage reduction to the damage you're dealing. Having it only at 1 cost, you only have that -1. So because it's a 2-cost card, if you have an E2 and you're trying to use that skill with 0 mana, you have minus 80%, and at E6 you have minus 40%. Now at only 1 cost, you make that a lot cheaper and more manageable overall. So this is why I actually prefer now playing her. Now we use the charge energy, draw out one of her cards. Let's use Repose, draw more cards, but I'm gonna use Rosaria here to draw just another card and see if we can get something. So we don't have any more AP regen, so that's why I don't think it's worth now to use Sir Kowalski, even though getting 2 more cards, if we can get the anchor pointer, okay, but we could potentially not use one of our anchor shots this way. So let's do this first. Boom, boom, boom. Get rid of all the fortitude stacks here, and what we want to do is let's just throw out our anchor shots here. I know this is a little bit of a longer video, but I think it's cool to see with this new boss on how this would look like. Now I know some people would say, but yeah, I can just turn 1 it with Mei Lin. Yeah, but Mei Lin is Mei Lin, right? At the end of the day, it's just a very, very strong unit overall. Now that we have that, let's buff up, do moral buff. Why not? Now we use the anchor pointer, get 1 mana back. Now this is a situation, for example, where you can use lift anchor, because for example, we only have 1 right now. We have 3 mana. We can make use of that buff actually. So let's see if this anchor shot is even going to crit. Let's do this one. Boom. It's not even going to crit here in the first place. So let me rewind real quick this one. So this anchor shot is never going to crit in this turn because it's predetermined if it's going to crit or not crit at the start of the turn. So let's do the lift anchor and buff the damage now of this card and see how much damage we are now dealing, that we have it at 2 costs with the upgraded version, but it's not going to crit. There we go, 1500. Now it's doubled, right? From 700 to 1500. Now on a crit, it would have hit a lot. harder. Lift anchor is a little bit suboptimal. In this situation, you can use it. If you have like 2 anchor shots, you have 4 mana, lift anchor, okay, go for it. But don't use lift anchor if you don't have the mana for it, okay? Keep that in mind. Otherwise, it's simply not worth it. It's like counterproductive. Conversation, get out a card. Let's use snack time. Rip off power anchor. I just want to get rid of bad cards from my deck here right now, or the cards I don't want to use. Another repose. Let's draw more cards. I feel like I can activate Sokolowski here. Let's see what we have. Perfect. Perfect scenario. Very, very good situation. I really don't care that you hit me, but because you will be dead now. I'm gonna use anchor shot, another anchor shot, and then I use my anchor pointers to get my anchor shots back. And then here I have them with full stacks. This one is not fully stacked, but that's fine. It's gonna hit. And he's gonna dead. And I would have had another anchor pointer, and then I would have a repose and see if I can get another anchor pointer, stuff like that, right? So this is what you can do. Now, ideally for her build is what you wanna have. As I said, you don't necessarily need the Forbidden Ecstasy. Ideally, you have none of her basic cards, and you have a 3rd anchor pointer. You don't need 4 because I think the deck doesn't fit a 4th. But if you can get a 3rd anchor pointer, and maybe even get rid of the power charge or the lift anchor, one or the other really. Lift anchor you can keep because it's basically free, it doesn't cost you anything. But you could potentially rip off power charge with an event or something. If it does fit in the faint memory count, then you could do that. And then you basically just have anchor pointer, anchor shot, and charge energy. Just only good cards, right? Nothing else. Stated Haru guide. Let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. I think this is really, really strong, and I hope this showcase helped you to see like her damage potential if you play her. And I specifically played her in a below E2 way, so you see how she looks like and what you can do with her if you do not have the extra abilities with her. Okay, so if you enjoyed watching this videos, guys, don't forget to leave a like and a comment down below. I really appreciate it, and see you with the next one. Deuces.